We all take hits. From the time we're born, we take hits. To this shell that's kind of invisible, can't see it, kind of protects our identity, who we are, our purpose, but it takes hits. And sometimes, if you take enough hits, the shell falls apart. And when it does, you have PTSD, and you feel vulnerable, and you feel scared, and you feel isolated, and you feel alone, and you feel like life isn't going to change. And I have met veterans whose lives have collapsed, and you'll talk to them, and they'll be in a room with all the lights off, the curtains closed, the door shut, in a corner with a gun. And the hardest thing to do is the one thing you have to do, is you got to put your hand out, and you got to find somebody that you can talk to and that you can trust, and that can begin to give you hope that you can overcome it and turn your tragedy into something else. The Ladder Up is a program that I developed based upon my own recovery, designed to give people hope and to give them some simple tools to understand what's going on with them and how to get better and how to reach out for help. The problem is frightening. When you really look at the statistics, a RAND study in 2008 estimated that 20% of veterans returning from Iraq and Afghanistan have post-traumatic stress disorder. When you have that, it means you exhibit all these symptoms. If you're on the way to it, you might very well have stress, you might very well not be able to sleep, but you haven't fully developed. That's 20% of the people that have fully developed post-traumatic stress disorder. They're hypervigilant, they can't sleep, they live in fear, they're having trouble getting on with their lives. I wanted to look at the steps I had to take to change my life and find a way to translate that to anybody sort of facing the abyss, facing the hole. How am I going to change? How am I going to take a step in another direction? Today, our troops and Marines serving, for the most part, that I found, they're joining to find a family. They're joining for a purpose. They're joining to get connected. And then when their service is over, or when they get hurt, and they are no longer part of that service, they have nowhere to come home to. That is why you see these suicide rates in the VA, and they're just mind-boggling. In the VA, of people they know about, now these are people they know about that aren't accidents, that are actually in the VA system. So who knows what the real number is? There are 18 suicides a day. The age demographic with the highest incident are the young men. It's the 25 to 40-year-old young man who has served. Now, why is that? It's because of the disconnectedness. It's when you start to fall through the cracks. I've seen it in my own life. I have 6 kids. I do what I love. I play my guitar every night before I go to bed. And years ago, I had a gun to my head. And if you would have told me that anything good would come from it, I would have laughed at you. But if you take those steps, you will find hope. And you will find the people you need to give you that hope. I was visiting this young Marine who, he's blown up in Iraq and he's been home for 3 years. And I visited him and his family. And I had the ladder and I spoke with them and I told him about, the 3 steps. Reveal your purpose, reveal the bigger picture. You're not broken, you're something better. And rebuild your life according to that and the steps that involves. And then the motivation to start the journey, to get out of it. And I just gave him a brief summary of it and I handed him the box and he cradled it. He cradled it in his arm. And I just sat there thinking about where that came from. Being a younger man than he was, with no hope at all. And writing a poem and just putting my thoughts down and hoping someday life could be better. And years later, here's this young man and he's cradling it in his arm. And it's awesome. And no matter how hurt you are, life can be awesome. The impossible can be possible. Just put your hand out. Just put your hand out.